Today we're going to look at more perspective, but we're going to focus on aspects that occur in the higher level exam. So mainly in the higher level exam, auxiliary vanishing points is the real only difference between this and an ordinary level question, where you will be asked to construct auxiliary vanishing points. So if we look at this example here, we have a plan. We have what looks like a slope on this wedge piece. So what we'll do here first of all is, this here is the 3D view of it. The green area here is our picture plane, and the front edge here is touching the picture plane. So you can see here, this here is our spectator point from what we actually look at. Now we've set up on the sheet here ground line and horizon line. So we have our horizon line set up here. So auxiliary vanishing or vanishing point 1 is set up, vanishing point 2 is set up. So in the plan view here, this is our vanishing point set up from our spectator, and again, to find vanishing points we go parallel to the sides of the object in plan. So to set up the two vanishing points, we go parallel to the sides, then we bring our points down to our horizon line, and that's where we'll be using them from. Next we'll construct the base, so mark off the height, which is a true height because it's touching the picture plane. And basically we have the front of the object created, we have the baseline created in the perspective. Next we have to look at constructing an auxiliary vanishing point. So to construct an auxiliary vanishing point, we need to know one of two things: the angle on which it is sloping up at, or a height. So in this case here, we'll say the angle at which it's going up at. So in the 3D view, what we're showing here is, if we're showing, this is showing the angle at which an auxiliary vanishing point is created. So it's directly above a vanishing point. All auxiliary vanishing points have to be directly above a vanishing point. Now what we're looking at here is, it's as if this line here, where would it eventually vanish back to? And this point here would vanish back to the same point, and that's when we're seeing it on the picture plane. And so what we're looking at here is, this is what's actually happening. On the green line here shows on the picture plane how it's vanishing back and how we actually see the object. Now to create this on our drawing here, we don't know the angle of this, so what we have to do is take measurements. So we take a horizontal measurement and a vertical measurement, and we're going to mark it down here from the spectator, the horizontal distance, and then the vertical height. That gives us our angle here. So the angle here, directly above the vanishing point then, so from this vanishing point directly above, we've created this angle. This measurement is really important because this measurement corresponds to the measurement over here. How much this auxiliary vanishing point is above this vanishing point. So we take this measurement and we mark it above our vanishing point 2, VP2. This is our auxiliary vanishing point. Now this allows us to actually draw in this object here. So from this point here, we've joined it to auxiliary vanishing point. We've now found the height of this without using a height line. Now we've the front edge drawn. We can join this back edge back to the auxiliary vanishing point, and this edge back to VP1, because this here is our horizontal edge here, and this here is our perspective using one auxiliary vanishing point. So we have all the construction over here done in 3D, showing you what's actually happening, and this here is how it would be represented on a drawing sheet. Now this here is another sample question. So basically we've the outline of a house, so we've a slope here and a slope at the back here. So in this case here we'll be looking at using two auxiliary vanishing points, and the reason for two auxiliary vanishing points is we've a slope going up the way and we've a slope going down the way. So to set up again, vanishing points parallel to the sides, then front edge is connected to the ground line because it's touching the picture plane. Then we take the height of the object, mark off the height, so we've the front edge found, we can find the back edge, we can find the ground. So basically with the base section of the house constructed there. Next we have to look at, we'll say, the auxiliary vanishing points and how to construct them. So in this case here we're taking the roof at a 30-degree pitch. So the angle of the roof is 30 degrees. So we mark off our 30 degrees here. So from our spectator to VP2, and the reason it's VP2 is the slope here is parallel to VP2. So we're going to be constructing our vanishing points off VP2 because the slope is parallel to VP2. So we're constructing our line here, and then where it hits VP2, a 90-degree line, and this here is the all-important height here to go above VP2. So this is our height here, and then we can construct the opposite way here off VP2 as well, giving us a height here. Now one of these is above the vanishing point VP2 and one is below, and the reason for this is this slope is going up the way, this slope is going down the way. So when we're joining them to VP2, one will go above VP2 and one will go below. So we have an auxiliary vanishing point here and we have an auxiliary vanishing point below. So this here is joined here to the front edge, so you can see the front edge here is highlighted. Then this edge then is sloping down the way. So if it's sloping down the way, we can't connect it to this vanishing point, so we need to construct the other vanishing point. So it happens to be the same measurement because they're both sloping at 30 degrees. Now we've joined this to the corner here and we've extended it. Now the main reason for using auxiliary vanishing points is we do not need to construct a height line for the height of the roof. In a question you might not be given the height. So what it is, this is why auxiliary vanishing points need to be used. So then we can draw the front, and then the rest of the lines and back line here is again sloped to auxiliary vanishing point 1. Then the ridge of the roof will be connected to VP1, and then this is the drawing complete using two auxiliary vanishing points in this question. Now this question here, a small bit more advanced, we have a slope going up here, and the inside piece is also sloped. So if we were to do this without auxiliary vanishing points, we'd be setting up a lot of height lines because there's a lot of details inside here that we need to know heights for. So we've 1, 2, 3, 4 lines here that need to be joined to an auxiliary vanishing point, and in this case there's only one sloping surface, so there'll be only one auxiliary vanishing point. So again, setup is the same. Front edge touching picture plane, so it could be joined onto the ground line, mark off our true height. Front of the object is connected. Then we have a slope of 30 degrees, which will be given to you in the question. So we draw our 30 degrees, and then this green line then from our vanishing point position here gives us the height above VP2, and it has to be VP2. So this vanishing point down here, so VP2, because this is the vanishing point here, this is also the angle at which it's sloping, so it has to be constructed off this vanishing point here. So we take this height, mark it above VP2, and then join this to vanishing point here, the back edge to vanishing point. Now what we can do is we can take these points up here and bring them down, mark them off as shown. Now this is the main structure. Now we've 2 points here. Join to spectator and marking all our points on our picture plane. So this is our front edge constructed. Now to find the inner edge here, if we draw this green line in our plan view, join it to the spectator, and then bring this point down onto our perspective, and then from this point bring this up to our auxiliary vanishing point. This will allow us to find these 2 points. Now to find these 2 points, we join them to the spectator and find them on the picture plane, and then bring them down to our perspective drawing. Now a small bit of detail to be put in here to show that this is actually hollow inside here. And then this is the perspective of this object completed with 1 auxiliary vanishing point. Now in this case here we have a circle and we've 2 sloping surfaces here. So it's a small bit more complex when you introduce a circle, because there will be points that need to be found on this circle. So we'll just look at this and see. Now I'm going to skip through the first setting up here because this is all standard. Now the only main difference in this one here is this point here is on the picture plane. The front point here of the object is not on the picture plane, it's out in front of it, so it means that it'll be below the ground line. So what you notice here that's done, spectator to this point, extended back onto the picture plane and then brought down, so it's down here below the ground line. Now to find it, we had this point here, so we were able to extend out from our vanishing point here. Now we'll project back to VP1. Next then, we're told in the question that it's a 20-degree angle, so this time it's VP2 in this case that these slopes are parallel to. So VP2 is brought back this direction, so we set up our angle of 20 degrees here, and then from this point here we're going to construct our height to find where the auxiliary vanishing point is. So this is our auxiliary vanishing point directly above, and this starts to allow us to construct this slope here. So we have this surface created. We can find the back slope, join it back to VP1 then to find the horizontal lines, then these points brought onto the picture plane, brought down, constructed. So this is how the front section. Now if we have this point and this point, obviously that will allow us to draw this sloping line and this sloping line in the perspective. So again, everything's joined to the spectator onto the picture plane and then brought down. Now this here is the main structure. Now we have to deal with if there's a circle here that has to be drawn in here. Now to draw the circle, probably the easiest method, and also using our auxiliary vanishing points, we take these points here, dividing in this case, dividing the circle into 8 segments. We have a point here and here, these 2 external points, and then we have 4 other points on the circle, which is enough to draw in this case. So the first thing we've done here is slice the circle with slices parallel to VP2. Now the reason we've drawn them back to VP2 is this allows us to find each of these points. So each of these points here will be drawn on this surface here by joining it back to the auxiliary vanishing point, because each of these is sloping, and then we take this point, join the spectator, and then from this point bring it down onto this green line. Now it does get really messy here because of all the lines. So if I look at this point here, this point brought down here, joined to auxiliary vanishing point, then this point brought onto picture plane, then brought down onto this line here. So this is this point. Top point then is on the same line found here. So we have half the circle, and it's just continue on then with the rest of the lines. And then the circle can be drawn in. Now the main disadvantage with circles here is the amount of construction lines that you will have. So these will need to be drawn lightly, but it's fairly straightforward. Once we get the first two drawn, it's just repeating yourself, drawing in this line in the perspective by vanishing back to the auxiliary vanishing point, and then bring these points onto the picture plane and then finding them on this green line in the perspective. Now we'll have a look at some short questions that have appeared in higher level papers. So this here is a short question that has appeared. So the first part, part A, is complete the perspective of the base block and the underside of the triangular top. Okay, so basically all we have to do here is finish drawing some of this here. So basically what we have here is we're looking at this block here. We want to now construct the blue section. So the blue section here, and shown in 3D, is basically what we're looking at here. So basically we've took this point here, which is touching the picture plane, so that means it's on the ground line. So bring it down here onto the ground line. Now in this case we don't have a height for it, but what we do have is we know this edge is connected to it. So what that allows us to do then is use VP1 and vanish out. So we can vanish out the direction. So what we're doing here is vanishing out the direction, connecting then the back section to VP1, and that's the base of it complete. Now to do the top section, this orange roof section, they want us to draw the base piece here first, just a straight line. So basically it would be a line from VP2 directly across here, and just find your points by joining the points to the spectator. So basically the first line we draw down here is this extended out from your vanishing point, and then this point connected here, this point brought down, that's our front section, and then what we have here then is vanish back the way then to get the back edge, and then not to forget this line back to VP2, because we'll actually see that edge there. Now that's part A of the short question done. The next piece then is to actually find, we'll say, the roof section. Now we're not given a height this time. We'll be told that it's at a particular angle. So in this case here we're told the angle is 30 degrees. So we're going to construct 30-degree angle here, and again it's off VP2 this time because the slope is sloping this way and this way. So that means we'll say this here is the angle of 30 degrees. So from this point here, where I have the cursor, I'll be drawing out a line out perpendicular, and this here is our height for our auxiliary vanishing point, and this is parallel to VP2, so it means that it's going to be above VP2. This is our auxiliary vanishing point. What this allows us now to do is join this point to our auxiliary vanishing point. Now we can mark below for the other auxiliary vanishing point, because it's sloping both ways in this case. And what we can do here is join this up to VP auxiliary vanishing point 1, and then brought our ridge point down to spectator, then found it on the picture plane and brought it down. Then we can join this point back to this already, but to prove that we've done right, if we join it back to our auxiliary vanishing point 2, and that's all that's needed in this question. So this is what a higher level short question would look like. basically a lot of it is set up. You just have to finish some part of the perspective and then construct an auxiliary vanishing point to finish the drawing. Now remembering to construct your angle off whichever vanishing point the slope is parallel to. So in this case here, the roof was sloping this way, so that's parallel to VP2 in this case. Now again, another sample higher level question. Basically you're given the two red blocks drawn in perspective, and we have to finish the base piece, and then we'll have to draw the triangular piece on top, which will be using auxiliary vanishing points. So we'll notice that the base piece is connected to the ground line, so it's connected to the picture plane, so that means it will be on the ground line. So basically what we'll do is we'll draw the blue section first, and then now it's drawn up here in the pictorial view up here, just to show you what's actually happening in the actual question. Now if we put it on the perspective sheet itself, what we're going to do is just construct the base piece. So base piece is VP1 connected through the base of the two red bricks, and this point here, which is got by bringing this corner down onto the ground line. Then this front edge connected back to VP2. This point here joined onto picture plane, then brought down, and then constructed as follows. Now the top section, the yellow section, the underneath is all horizontal, so we can use our vanishing points. So again, the points have already been brought down onto picture plane and then brought down to our perspective drawing. So basically we have the section here now created. Now in this case here, we have to start realizing where our auxiliary vanishing point is going to be, whether it's going to be above VP1 or above VP2. So first of all, I look at plan and see which way the slope is sloping. So the roof is sloping down this way and this direction. So that would tell me if it's going this way and this way, what it is. This here is the vanishing point, so it means it needs to be drawn off this vanishing point, so it's above this vanishing point here. So our angle will be created off this angle here. Now, so what it is, if we set up the angle here, so in this case here, we've brought down this point here onto picture plane, so we've brought it down here onto perspective, so we know the top of the roof is here somewhere. We've constructed our 30-degree angle, so from this point here we'll be drawing a line up at 90 degrees, and this is our height. So this is our height for our auxiliary vanishing point. So above VP1, mark off our height, this auxiliary vanishing point. Connect this point to this point here. This now gives us this point here. Now in this case, we don't have room on the page to connect another auxiliary vanishing point, but we don't need to do it because we have the top point found. We had this point found on the base, so it was just a matter of connecting together. Now there's another line to be drawn in here for the back edge, and then this point here. And that's the perspective of this. Again, another short question. Now this here is a higher level short question from 2012. Basically the whole drawing is shown here in its perspective view, so it actually shows you what the answer should look like. So a lot of it is set up, our vanishing points are set up, and basically there's a small bit of perspective drawn here. Now this is using 3-point perspective. There's a perspective point shown here, down base here, and what it is shown in the answer actually how to connect these lines. So basically we join back to VP1 or VP2, then back to VP1, and then we can construct the main body of the actual bin. So we're constructing an auxiliary vanishing point here. Now in this case here, we're not drawing a height or an angle from our spectator because we don't know the angle. But in this case, we're already given the front edge, which drawn in perspective, which is at an angle. Now this has to connect back to a vanishing point. So in this case here, looking at this line here, what we're looking at here is it is connected to this edge here. So this is the edge here. So this is sloping. It's parallel to this vanishing point. So it means directly above this vanishing point there would be an auxiliary vanishing point. So what we've done in the question here is extended on this line until it hit this line, and this is our auxiliary vanishing point. That allows us to get the back edge here, and we'll call the ridge of the bend here, the very top piece of the bend, back to VP1. Then we've the back edge brought down, and then this edge brought back to VP1, and then it's a matter of connect up this point, and then this point is connected to this back point here. Now this here is most of the section of the bend done. There's a small bit of detailing here to be brought in. This point brought back to VP1, and then this point brought back to VP2 to find the back line here. Now all that's left to be done is the front section of the bend. So these are all horizontal lines, so they're all brought back to VP2, and then these lines brought down are all brought back to this vanishing point, as shown over here in the actual preview of what the answer should look like. So this is a very simple detail at the front here, and that's the short question completed. Now we'll have a look at what a long question in perspective will look like. Now this here is from section B on the higher level paper from 2010. So basically it looks like a roof section with steps up onto it. So what we have here is we have slopes, different slopes here, and then we have other slopes here. So we're going to, when we see a question like this, we know there's auxiliary vanishing points needed. So basically this here is the plan set up, spectator, then picture plane, and the picture plane very simply is brought through corner A here. So that means that this point here will be a true height, and also this point here will be a true height. Now it's a matter of set up our ground line, our horizon line, and then bring down our vanishing points. Now we can bring down A. A is brought back to two vanishing points. So what we have here is we have a small bit of the actual elevation shown here. So this here is just to show you where we're getting the heights from. So what we're going to do is, this is height 1. So height 1, we know this is a true, we can mark off a true height off this point here. So we can just mark our height off here. Then bring this back to VP1. And basically we've the front piece here set up. Then height 2. Now height 2, if we think going back to using height lines, if we were to get a height line for this point here, we could bring a height line straight down, mark it off here, join it back to VP2 in the perspective view. But if you imagine, if we took a height line and brought it along here, where point A is, what it is, all the heights can be marked off this line in the center, because this line in the center can work as a height line for all the heights that we need. So that's what's done in this case, rather than having to set up a second height line. So this is our heights found here. Then it's a matter of joining points back to the perspective here from the spectator through onto the picture plane, and then bringing them down. So height 3 then again marked off the same height position here, and then we'll start drawing in the first section here. So the first section here drawn in here is relatively straightforward. So we have all these points found. So all these points are found. So we have the base section of all the steps here drawn in here. We have 2 points here drawn in. Then we have the back section. We have this section here that we can draw in because we have heights for all this. And this here is the front section here. Now looking at this, we know there's pieces going, all these lines go back parallel back to VP2, so all these lines can be brought back to VP2. So our last height here again can be measured from here, gives us these two heights here, so it allows us to draw the outline of the side. So next section here is construct the back section. So again, all these points can be found here, marked off, and then it's basically a matter of bring all these points back to our vanishing point. So you can see here in the pictorial view here what's going to happen. So all these are brought back to VP2, so all these steps just connect it back. So it's a matter of drawing all these lines. So if we skip through this fairly quickly here, this here is all the steps put in. So these steps brought in here. So basically we have all these points found. Now the last section then to draw is the actual roof section here. So the roof section here in this question, we're going to have to use an auxiliary vanishing point. So our auxiliary vanishing point this time, what it is, we know it's this point here. So this here, so what we're looking at here is 30 degrees. So it's sloping this direction here. So that means it has to be off VP1. So what we have here is this line here is brought off VP1. So what we're doing here is marking off this height off VP1 here. So what we're doing is this point here is projected up the way. That is this point here, A, has been brought onto picture plane. So what it is this point here. What that allows us to do is extend on this. And again, what we have drawn here then is the front section here joined to this auxiliary vanishing point. Now this section here is horizontal, so that allows us to join this back to VP2. And then the internal edge here, what it is, it's, we'll say, joined to auxiliary vanishing point. This back line here that some students do forget to put in is also joined back to VP2 because it's a horizontal line. Now this here is the higher level solution to 2010. Now this here is a sample higher level question. Basically what we're looking at is a wedge design here. So it's just a good example to show you where auxiliary vanishing points would be used. So basically we set up the base here quickly. So that's the base setup. Next thing then is our auxiliary vanishing point. So in this case it's 25 degrees. And what it is, 25 degrees sloping parallel to VP2 in this case. So that means our auxiliary vanishing point is going to be above VP2. Also it's sloping down, and we take it sloping down the same angle, 25 degrees. So we mark the same distance below the vanishing point. That allows us to draw, join this to the auxiliary vanishing point, this top point brought down, that's found, then join it back to the auxiliary vanishing point. That's the front edge, then the back edge here, join back to auxiliary vanishing point, top piece, join to auxiliary vanishing point. Now next one, similar, it's just repeating the process again. Once we get to understand how we set up the auxiliary vanishing points, they're relatively straightforward to use. So basically it's just a matter of join up your auxiliary vanishing points, set up, and then the back edge again, joined up again. So it's just repeat the process over and over again. So this is just a question just based on using auxiliary vanishing points, and what we have is wedge pieces here. Now the final question that we'll look at here is, we'll say, what could appear in a higher level question. One main difference here is we're given point B. Point B is where the picture plane is going through this time. So the picture plane doesn't actually touch the object at all this time. So we have a spectator here. We've constructed our angles here, constructed our picture plane. Then we set up our ground line, our horizon line, vanishing points all set up the same way. Now the main difference in this case is we don't have this touching the picture plane, so we have a difficulty in where do we start this drawing. Now what we have drawn here to help us understand the question is the elevation. What we'll notice here is, we'll say, the outline of a building with a circle section taken out of it, and then there's another what looks like a small chimney sticking out of the roof section. Again, all using angles. So quickly looking at this, sloping up this way, sloping this way. So what I do know is we'll have two auxiliary vanishing points, but what it is, they're parallel to this vanishing point because it's parallel to this in plan, sloping up the way here and then down the way here. So what it is, the auxiliary vanishing points is going to be above this vanishing point here. So it's going to be above here and then below here. Now to set up this, the first thing we have to do is we have to set up a height line. So we're bringing a line across here. We're bringing this height line down here, and what we're going to do is mark off the height on that height line. So this height, first of all, is 0. Then what we're going to do is take this point here, join to the spectator, this point here, then bring it down. This is where our perspective is now starting from. So what we have here is we have the base section here. Now this here is marking off the height of this section here. So this section here is marking off the height here. So this point is brought back to our vanishing point then, and this here is our front edge, whereas normally we're used to having this front edge touching the picture plane. In this case it's not. We had to use a height line here, this purple line here, to set up all this. Next we'll construct the main section. Next we're going to look at the angles. So sometimes the angle mightn't be given to you, so in this case it's not. So what we have to do is take these two measurements here, so this horizontal measurement, this vertical measurement. So from the spectator, measure over the horizontal distance, the vertical distance, and then recreate our angle. So this is our angle, and then continue it on, and then from this point here, from our vanishing point, 90 degrees up. This is our height for auxiliary vanishing point, and again we can mark it directly below as well because the roof is sloping up and down the same angles. Now what we're doing in this case then is we can connect this front edge to our auxiliary vanishing point 1, and this one connected to this point and extend it up. This gives us the front of the building. Then this point, because this line is going back horizontal, what it is, it's joined back to this vanishing point here, and again the back edge joined to this auxiliary vanishing point, and this is the main structure created. Now what we're going to look at is the points on this chimney section. So this is the point on the chimney section. We have this line, so this point brought to our spectator, onto the picture plane, brought down, found here. Now what we'll do is vanish this point out the way. What that allows us now to do is find this point in plan, join the spectator on picture plane, bring it down. That's it now located. Next then is we're using a height line here. So the height line in this case is brought down here onto a picture plane. It's parallel to this vanishing point here. So that means this purple line here, any heights we mark on it will be vanishing back to this vanishing point here. Now, so what we'll do is we'll take a height. So we have a height here. We take this height, mark it, and then bring it back, and then mark our two heights up here. So we have our two heights positioned up here. Next we have this section now can be drawn in heavy. Now what we should know is we know this is at angles and this angled. So looking at this will be able to be connected to an auxiliary vanishing point. So this here is connected to an auxiliary vanishing point. Then this point is found in the plan, joined to spectator onto picture plane, brought down, top point is found here. Then this point brought back to auxiliary vanishing point, this auxiliary vanishing point, and then finally to finish off here, that's our auxiliary vanishing point brought down here. So just to complete the drawing here, this edge here brought up to this auxiliary vanishing point, and that's the drawing complete. Now we have to deal with the circle section. Now the circle section is not that difficult to deal with. The easiest way about dealing with this circle section here is we have to get points on it. So the points here, 30, 60, vertical, 60, 30. Mark off these points, bring them up onto the plan of the object, and then these points now, 2 points can be marked off basically straight away. The 2 points here could be marked off here and here. What we're doing here is we're bringing a height line across, so we're using the original height line again, and what we're doing is taking these heights here. So we're going to take the height here, mark it on the height line, bring this height across, and then obviously we have a height line brought across here. We have this point here, so what we'll do is bring this point to spectator on the picture plane, bring it down, mark off the top point of the circle. Now next we'll take the next points, so this point here and this point here, same height, mark the height off the height line, join that back to vanishing point. Then we have these 2 points, then mark that point off here, and this point marked off here, and then the next point, next set of points is done the exact same way. Mark on the height line, bring it back, bring it on the picture plane, bring it down. That's it found here. And then the easiest ones of all that we could have found at the start, brought down these 2 points here, and sometimes you'll have these already drawn in, these 2 points. So that's our circle drawn. Then, not to forget, this is probably hollow here, so there might be a line joined back to this vanishing point here, and that's the drawing complete. Now these questions have to deal with auxiliary vanishing points. So we've looked at this first question already, so these are the measurements for it. Now what we have to take into account here is looking at the scale. This is scale 1:20, so every measurement here has to be divided by 20. Now you're told in the question here, spectator is 1.8 meters away from corner A. Again, that's divided by 20. But this here, if we change it to mils first, 1.8 meters is 1,800 mils. So we divide that by 20. Now our horizon line is 2 above the ground line, so 2 meters above, so that means that's 2,000. Divide that by 20 again. Now this shows us our perspective when it's drawn, but it's drawn in a different orientation. So what it is, it just gives you a help of what the object actually looks like, but we'll be turning it around from a different view. Now it's important when you're looking at these perspective questions that when you're looking at the plan, you're drawing the plan, look at where the spectator point is, because that'll allow you to figure out where you place this on the page. So looking at this plan would have to go up in the top left hand corner, because our spectator point is going down to the bottom right, so that means our perspective is going to be bottom right on the page. Now if we look at the second question here, the second question here is from 2018. It's a higher level question, and it's a small bit more difficult. When we're looking at this here, it's a small bit more difficult, and the main difficulty is with how we set up the vanishing points this time and the auxiliary vanishing points. In this case here, what we will have is we'll find our spectator point. Again, looking at this one here, then this plan view will be put probably in the middle of the page, up at the top of the page. Okay, top middle, because what is our spectator point is directly south of A, and then you're setting up your picture planes the same way. Then the only difference in this case here is our vanishing points this time. One vanishing point is parallel to this edge, then we have a vanishing point parallel to this edge here, and in this case we will have a third vanishing point parallel to this edge here and this edge here. It's important that you understand you have 3 vanishing points this time. Now, another hint for you when you're doing this question, you will have 2 auxiliary vanishing points. You will have an auxiliary vanishing point here and here. They'll have the same auxiliary vanishing point. Then you'll have another auxiliary vanishing point for this point here and this point here. And that will be over your 3rd vanishing point. So you'll have 3 vanishing points and you'll have 2 auxiliary vanishing points. Now in this case here, you have 2 lines here for auxiliary vanishing points. These 2 lines here will be found using auxiliary vanishing point. But then the top of the object here, and you're shown here, this is actually what the perspective is going to look like. This line here and this line here are horizontal, so they'll join back to your normal vanishing points. Now in this case as well, what they're asking you to do is, you have a chimney here which is in position C here, 20 meters high. So what you have to do is locate that into perspective as shown here. Now a hint for that is you will be bringing this onto your picture plane, but also to get the height of it, you'll need to construct a height line. So you'll need to construct a height line for this here. So it'll be up to you which direction you'll go in, and that'll determine which vanishing point that you project it to. Now the 3rd question here, this doghouse here. Now what we have here, it's fairly straightforward. There's not a lot of difficulty in this. Now there's an interesting part of this last part of this. The interesting part here is the roof here of this doghouse is pitched at 35 degrees and this side piece here is pitched at 35 degrees. Now you'll be using 2 auxiliary vanishing points, but 1 above and below an original vanishing point. And what you'll notice in this case here is S spectator point is say southwest of A here, so this will go up in your top right hand corner, and then the rest of your drawing will be down bottom left on your page. Now the interesting part of this one here is determine and indicate in millimeters the altitude of the doghouse in perspective drawing if the inclination of the sloping roof was changed 45 degrees. Now basically what they're asking you to do there is, in the perspective, once you have the perspective drawn, what they want you to do is construct another auxiliary vanishing point, but this case here it's at 45 degrees, and basically you will have this point and this point. You'll be able to find the new height in your perspective, and then all you have to do is indicate in mils how much higher, if you were to change the roof to 45 degrees, would the doghouse be.